Welcome to the Ben Nevares podcast with your host, Ben Nevares.
What is it that you're currently doing?
Everything. So a little bit about me. I am a strength and conditioning coach as well. I have my own fitness practice that I converted fully online when we moved to Vegas a little over 2 years ago. When I moved here, I had already started doing acting lessons and doing commercial acting training. When I moved out here, it was like the universe is like, okay, you're in the right spot. And it put me in the right place at the right time to meet people that were actively doing that type of work. And so I was able to ask my questions and kind of hit the ground running, which then put me in the right rooms to meet with the right people to start producing and acting and assistant directing. The next role would be directing and just really involving in that film world, and then started to do stunt work because of my athletic background. And one of the things I think I should lead with is when I moved here, we didn't know anybody except my best friend because she's stationed here at the Air Force Base. But I told myself, this is my opportunity to start with a clean slate. What is something that I've always wanted to do for myself besides heal from my burnout from my previous role? What are the things I've always wanted to do? So I started pursuing those things. And I watched this YouTube video by Erin May Henry called Becoming the Coolest Person That You Know. And that just hit me. And I'm like, that's what I want to do. I want to become the coolest person that I know because I want to do cool things and I want to do those things. What's stopping me? Oh, the fact I'm a woman and I'm 33, that's my own beliefs. So I started just putting myself out there and trying and learning, and what works I keep and what doesn't I just throw away. And it's been such a game changer. I would have to say I'm so much more fulfilled than I've ever been in my entire life. And I'm just eternally grateful because if we hadn't have moved out here, never would have happened. Never.
That is so cool. I really have always wanted to get involved with the acting space, but it's also it seems like there's it's for them kind of a thought. And that's the way I thought was school as well when I first started trying to get a master's. I was like,
oh Lord, yes.
No, that's for them. And it's wait, who's them? Mm-hmm. Why am I not part of them? And I finally realized I can own that if that's something that I desire to do. Mm-hmm. All I got to do is make that choice. And then if that's not the school that accepts me, then their loss. I know that I'm worth a pretty penny. Well, let me just move on to the next school. There's plenty of opportunities out there. Yeah. If this is something I truly want, let me find that opportunity.
Absolutely. And I would have to say that any career or any path that you take, it is what you make of it, but also the opportunities that you seek. So many people are waiting for things to just show up to them and okay, I'm ready for the role, hire me, or I'm ready for clients, that kind of thing. Whereas it's the effort you put in, the places that you go, the network that you have. If I hadn't accepted that first job, that was a universal God divine thing that I was in that room. If I hadn't learned what I needed to do to be on those sets, I wouldn't have had the opportunities I have now. I wouldn't know what type of work I need to do. But if that's something you're interested in, figure out what the baseline is. And what I recommend for most people, if they want to do acting or be on bigger sets, be a background actor. You are essentially paid to wait. And then you do something in the back end of a scene. But it's the best thing ever because you can observe. You can see how things work. You can see if that's the type of work and the culture that you want. And just like anything else, there's good and there's toxic. But you can observe and see if that's kind of what you want. And then you can look for other opportunities. And then you start to create your own products. Because again, nobody's going to present you the opportunity sometimes. Sometimes you have to create those opportunities. And so that's what you have to do, just like anything. Acting is no different than any other career. Sometimes you just have to hustle a little differently than you're used to.
Is podcasting part of the goal to create your own content?
Yes.
And hey, I am a director, or I can produce things.
Yeah. That was one of the things, but I'd had this for, God, what year did I start podcasting? 2017, 2018. Wow. So I took a 2-year hiatus because that was the precipice of that burnout period when I started to drop off. And it was right after COVID too. So I had worked from home for a long time. My client load had changed. My workload had changed. And then we had news that we were moving out here. So it's I hit that first wall and it was okay, so something has to drop off the ledge. And that is what it was. But I'd always liked podcasting before that because I am long-winded and I am a teacher by nature. And so it was one way for me to translate my craft and connect with people was through podcasting. And so it was always going to come back. It was just a matter of when my health was in a good place, and also like my mental place was in a good, prior to this podcast, we were chatting. And when I moved here, I was in severe burnout from my corporate job and the life I'd been living. I had been training I was working probably 40 to 60 hours in a gym, not including my other parts of my life and my commute, and then having my own business. And so we moved here and I left that job. I realized something wasn't right. I did not want to talk to my husband. I didn't want to talk to my mother. I didn't want to pet my own dogs. I didn't want to like go do anything. And I was living in a city I'd always wanted to live in. What was wrong? And so taking time to really dig into those answers and getting blood work done and getting work done. And we realized that my hormones were so bad. No wonder I didn't want to be around people. No wonder I didn't want to do my passions. And once we started to solve that, all of a sudden I started to want to actually like live again. I wanted to go and do things and meet people and do my passions and have the capacity to do it. It just took longer than we all think, and got more longer than I thought. I'm still on that journey, but like it's been a game changer to acknowledge that I needed to step back, and that had to be the priority. So that way these things could come back and be the priority.
Also finding the right doctor or community of people that are willing to listen to that and not just say, well, you're depressed, or let me prescribe you this drug or that drug, but like really taking the time to figure out what truly is going on. Where did you go to find like the right doctor? Because Las Vegas is not known, or Nevada is not known for the best healthcare. So where did you end up going?
I went off the traditional spectrum. I actually went and found a integrative health practitioner that could do blood work. Because every time I tried to get blood work done, I couldn't get them to run a full enough hormone panel. They would just do the baseline hormones, but they wouldn't do the conversion hormones and the ones that told you if you were actually converting. Or I couldn't get them to do the gut testing I needed done. Like, it's like, well, why? You're having regular bowel movements and things of that sort. So what do you mean you need gut testing? So like, I hate saying this, but it's so true. I feel like I was gaslit for my symptoms and like, oh, it's probably that. Oh, you might be pregnant. Constantly. And finally I was like, okay, so I guess I'm going to have to do something else. So I literally found somebody. I spent a year saving enough money to do the testing. So that way I could get my gut checked and my hormones checked. And once we got that, that's how it happened for me. So I found somebody off the spectrum that would listen to me and do the work that needed to be done, and that could read the labs, and so we could make a plan for me to get better. And so I've had good doctors in the traditional system. I will be the first to say that. But getting the stuff I needed done, I couldn't do in the traditional health world. I had to seek out other help. And it was a game changer. And I also knew it was going to be an investment. I was not naive in the fact it was going to cost me probably a couple $1,000s to do what I needed to do. But is my life worth that? Absolutely. Absolutely.
How did you get down the strength conditioning path? Why did you start? Were you an athlete in school and then like just transitioned to I want to coach?
Yes. So my undergraduate's in animal science. I actually wanted to be a veterinarian for a long time. So that was technically my first career. And then I worked in higher education for 7 years. I actually ran student retention programs. I did academic advising. I ran my own department. And in my last career in that area, I was working at a school that is like, okay, if you want to get a master's, you can go do it. I had started looking in the biology department, and the professor I looked at studying under our personalities did not match in the slightest. And all I could think is like, if I'm going to work with you for 4 years, I don't need to be crying out of your office the first day. Like, no, thank you. I'm good. I can do the work. The work's not the problem. But if you're going to start from the get-go, this is not a good match. And I get home and I'm just pissed. And my husband's like, what is your deal? And I'm like, this. And he goes, why are you not looking at like kinesiology? I said, what? He said, that's all you read and do. Like, that's what you've done for the last like 8 years I've known you, and God, what you did before me. And I was like, it never occurred to me to look into kinesiology. I always thought it was like athletic training and things like that sort. So I went back and I talked to some of the people in the department because I had known a lot of those people working with them. And I said, hey, I'm considering getting my master's and I want to transition to this field. What do you think? And they literally opened me with open arms, looked at my transcripts, told me what I needed to take. And I said, if you want to experience, why don't you go down to the strength conditioning departments here on campus? So if you want to pop in between while you're at work, you can. And so that's what it did. So I got into the department. I took the two prerequisites to get into the program. And then I started going down to the strength conditioning department, just kind of like seeing because I knew I was going to need an internship at some point and some more direct hands-on experience, not just my own experience of helping people and having clients and things of that sort. And I was like, I need like more hands-on and structured. And so I started going down there. I said, hey, how can I help? This is kind of like my hours. What can I do? He's like, yeah, if you want to do it, this is how this is work. And bless that man. Bless that man. He opened me with open arms, told me what I needed to do, and he worked with my schedule. So I literally interned them out of the program. I was in the program. It took me 2.5 years to do my master's because I worked full-time until the last 6 months. And I was in that strength and conditioning department the last 1.5 years. And then when I left my job to finish my master's, I literally was in that gym probably 8 to 12 hours a day when I was not doing school.
That's the life of a strength and conditioning coach.
But it was the best thing ever because I got hands-on. They were research-led. I never felt dumb asking a question ever. I did feel like I was thrown into the lion's den because that's how he mentored us, but it was also a blessing in disguise. Like in like my skills, my confidence, my ability to lead, like I am 5'6". I'm sitting here. You probably can't tell that, but like I'm sitting in a room with 45 young men and they're all at least 6 foot. And so I'm looking like this at them. How am I going to lead them? How am I going to guide them? How am I going to articulate what we have to do in this space and command that room, but also for them to be leaders amongst themselves and set that expectation? Because also like some of them were my students too. So like it was a completely different relationship and dynamic and also like a personal development journey unto itself to be able to do that. And that was probably one of the best things ever. Yeah, it's a long day, but like, man, it changed, but also incited me how I wanted to live my life. Did I want to be in the gym all day? Yes and no. I felt like as long as I had some balance to my life, which balance is a joke, but like I felt fulfilled in both areas, I was doing good. So that's why I went into corporate wellness after that. And I took all those skills and applied it to my everyday clients because they had never been taught anything outside of fat loss. They had never been taught how to run well. They'd never been taught how to look at their performance and like just to move to live. And so that background has changed completely how I operate my life, but also like how I work with my clients. Because if you can move well and you can find joy in your movement, but also understand like movement is more than fat loss, like it just opens so many doors.
What are some of your favorite movements?
Oh, that's a loaded question because it depends on what the person needs. I think one of the things that people neglect, especially in our society, is anything that requires from the chest line up to mobilize and to be functional, because we're always in this hunched up position. So I love like the halos. That's kind of like been my jam lately. I love a rotating RDL right now because we keep everything so linear. So I'm trying to make sure I'm crossing the planes for my clients. Every dang client carries. Everyone. If that's anything that all my clients take from working for me is they do a carry for the rest of their life, I have won the lottery at that point. Because we carry all the time. All the time. One of my first clients I ever worked with, she just wanted to be able to put her own carry-on bag in the overhead bin on her trip to Europe. And she was in her 70s.
It's a good feeling.
How humbling is that? Like,
yeah.
I'm like tearing up thinking about it because she's the most epic human being and she taught me so much. But I was like, yes, ma'am, that's what we're going to do. But this is also how we do it. So, you know, I have a 70-year-old client lugging around 25 pounds in each hand. And my boss comes by and goes, what are you doing? I said, making her dreams a reality. Please go away. Thank you. And dadgummit, she did it. So like, that's the one thing I have all my clients do, no matter if they're in recovery, rehab, if they are in a stress protocol right now, like every one of them is going to carry because that's the most underrated exercise.
I like carries a lot. I like dead hangs.
Oh, I love
like
dead
carries.
hangs too.
Same idea as a
Yes.
carry, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like carries a lot. You have any other favorites? What about personally? Any favorites that you're like, I've been thinking about this. I was like, okay, I think that there's a lot of stuff on social media where there's like ridiculously complex movements to have a result that could be accomplished with a much more simple movement. And so other strength and conditioning coaches, I've been wanting to ask other strength and conditioning coaches, like, what is your like favorite couple exercises, either for yourself or for others? So it sounds like for others, it's going to be a carry, some rotational stuff. So
I do all the same thing my clients do.
Nice.
I would say it's more powerlifting style, or I will add some more Olympic lifting just because that's my background. But like if it's simple, I'm going to squat, hinge, push, pull, carry. Like hands down, like I'm going to pick one hinge, one carry, one pull, one push. I'm missing something, but this is why we write things down. Yeah. So, and then if I need to, I'll make sure that there's a horizontal and a vertical. I probably said it backwards. Yeah, that's right. There we go. Brain is working today. Yeah. So like I try to just make sure I hit the main basics, and it's not like I probably work out 2 days a week right now, but that's just what my health is requiring. And I walk a bunch at this point in my life, where prior to moving here, which it'll come back to, because I do, caveat, I should probably add, I also train probably like 5 or 6 days a week doing martial arts for stunts and things of that sort. So that takes up a good amount of like my neural systems effort. So I try to keep everything else a lot more low key because of that, because my neural system's like, oh God, we're learning something new. So I try to keep it super simple, and also like understand my brain needs time and my body needs time to recover. And so I can't sit there and ask myself to go deadlift 300 pounds again. Like that is not the reality. I've not been training for that, but I can still go deadlift down my back porch with what I have. I can still work on my push-ups, and like I got to get a pull-up bar in this house. So like I'm hanging off the back porch. I do dead hangs too, and scap pulls and things of that sort. But I just try to meet myself where I'm at and try not to have this expectation of being back in that body. If I get there, cool, but like I need to be here and be present and not be wishing for something else.
What are your specific goals with your current fitness journey?
So my biggest thing right now is I just want my health to be back to 100%. I want my sex hormones to be fully in acceptable, healthy ranges, because they're still not there. I want my digestive system to function. At that point, once everything's running, then I need to start bringing up my skill set. So like I want to be able to start tumbling and flipping again, because that's part of my job now. I want to be able to train more martial arts, but I'll probably still stay in that baseline, more calisthenics, but I'll always strength train. Like I have always loved weights, but weights has always served my purpose. And I've always tried to be very aware of how they interact with the plan at that point. I can still do a pull-up, but I miss being able to do like 10 or 12. I would love to have my back squat back where it was. Like, okay, so I have a powerlifting background. I powerlifted in high school. I powerlifted as a young adult while I was in grad school. I'm a psychopath.
I'm right there with you.
So like I had like a deadlift of like 300 pounds. My back squat was like 275. I was able to bench press my body weight, which like is still like blows my mind that I was able to do that. And I would love to be able to do all that, but I'm also like not married to it either. I am more married to learning this martial arts. I'm more married to exploring this opportunity with being a stunt woman and doing things I'd always wanted to do, and then making my body capable to do that type of work and recover from that type of work.
The strength training definitely helps with being able to recover from that type of stuff. Injury prevention is rather important for that field.
Absolutely.
I also competed in powerlifting. I competed at IPF Worlds a couple different times, and I have such a desire to still be strong. But then it's like weird to. I deadlifted like 749, and like to be able to now deadlift like 600. People look at that and they're like, man, that's really good. And I'm like, it's okay.
Yes.
But then remembering like, no, this is where I'm at today, and my goals maybe don't align with that. And like, that was all that I did. I focused on that one thing, and it saw a lot of success in it. But if I want to also grow a podcast and work several different jobs and grow my own marketing company, my own pharmaceutical company, then something's going to fall.
Yes.
And if strength training is going to be that thing, then it can be maintained I don't need to deadlift 700, but 600 is still nice. It's okay. Remembering that goals can change.
And also like that timeline can expand. I think so often we focus on the timeline, condensing. But what if we allowed ourselves to take that time, to allow that expansion of that time frame to happen so we can achieve it? Like I was talking to a colleague in the field a while back before she had her baby, and she said, I got this program, and he's like, do this 3 days a week. And I literally expanded this 12-week program into like 6 months, and I still saw the results that they claimed in like 12 weeks. And I'm like, you just mind blown at that point, because it's like, it's truly just stimulus, and it's your ability to recover from that stimulus. So like, if you wanted to do that and still have your other demands, maybe it's a matter of that stimulus too. And I think that's why people pursue coaching too. We are a form of stimulus to like keep that fire, but also like to regulate that fire. I don't know about you. I would much rather have a controlled fire than a gas fire, like any day of the week. So 100%. Maybe it's learning to control the fire a little bit more in the right direction.
So are you saying that as a coach or as a client? Like as both. Coaches, we step into that space because we're trying to control that fire? Is that the idea?
It's both. Both, because I think it's so important as a person too to realize that sometimes we want to do everything, but sometimes we have to regulate the speed, you know? And also as a coach, like it's my job to advise my clients and to like, here's your options. You still make the ultimate decision, but here's why I suggest these types of things so they can make a more educated decision. And also like reality. I had a client more recently that just had a baby, and she literally wanted to like be back within 6 weeks of birth. And I'm like, honey, I know you don't want to hear this, but I'm going to write this for you. And I want you to come back to it when you have a more open head. You just grew a human for 9 months. It is truly unrealistic to expect to be faster than 9 months because your body has to repair itself. It technically takes more than like 2 years post-birth is what we're seeing for all the research right now. And so it's like, I get that, but I want you just to look at it in open head. If this is what you want to do, I will support you in the best that I can. I don't advise it, but I want you to make your own choice. And she came back, she goes, okay, I'll take a little bit longer. Not as long as you think. It's like, that's fine. I just want you to be open-minded to the timeline changing.
Was this client training before they had their kid? So what is the ideal amount of time that if I have strength training incorporated before and during my pregnancy, what is the ideal timeline to return to activity? I'm not saying like 9-10 RPEs, but like at what point can I start introducing walks, maybe bands, maybe start adding some weights? What does that timeline look like?
It varies. Most people are cleared at 6 weeks, but really it's all about pressure control. Can you can you manage the pressure and the diaphragm? And that's going to dictate where. Most women can walk almost immediately after birth. It's when we start to have cesareans and things of that sort that we have some things we have to be a little bit more mindful of, because they literally cut through that whole muscle layer that creates tension across the torso. So, which is we do not give women enough time from that kind of, it's a major surgery, and we expect them to take, I think they said, like, it's been a minute since I've read it, but I want to say it's like 6 to like 12 weeks recovery, when we see some of those other major surgeries is like 6 months, and we don't treat it the same way. As for like post-birth, I always recommend clients to at least imagine as many months as you're pregnant is at least as many months you need to give yourself to recover post-birth. Now, the reality is it's probably closer to 2 years, because your tendons and everything and your musculature takes time to come back, and it had to expand. It typically takes more time to contract, as well as your body's different, your hormones are different, your life is different. So like, besides the physiological piece, we're forgetting the life piece that also dictates that too, that we have to manage that, because you're not sleeping as much because you're taking care of a human, and you're having to learn how to feed and take care of them like your whole life. So like, besides physiological, there's a whole life piece that we don't incorporate and imagine.
So 2 years of recovery to be lively operational, not just...
Well, you could probably be faster too, but like if you had to, like, worst case scenario, probably 2. And that's just so that everything has time to adjust. And you have to learn that piece too, because like, you may be able to deadlift at like 6 months a barbell, but can you deadlift without peeing yourself? Can you deadlift and manage your pressure and not have any I cannot remember the word for it right now, but it's where your diaphragm pokes through the abdomen muscles. I can't think of it right now.
A hernia.
Well, that's one, but diasthyrectomy is another version of it. And we still have coning post-birth too, which is another form of that. And so until that can be managed, that's really going to dictate some of that. And some of that may never go away too, because your skin and everything just adjusts to bear a child. And I think that's something that society does not allow women to adjust for. I feel like there's this very unreal expectation of women to, the saying goes, work like you're not a mother, but mother like you don't work.
Say that again.
Work like you're not a mother, and mother like you don't have a work or a job. And so there's this very unreal expectation, as well as this very unreal expectation of bouncing back to and immediately being back to your post baby body. But we're still not accounting for your life changing or anything, or your hormones. That's the other thing that people don't realize is your hormones are drastically different after a baby. And it takes a while for them to stabilize. So if you support yourself, work on getting your sleep, which is a challenge when they don't sleep very long. But, sleep, fuel yourself, actually allow your body to be fed and taken care of and getting all the micronutrients that you need and taking care of your mental health. If you take care of those baseline things, you will get to your goals so much faster if that's something you value. I just always try to coach in the piece of what is the best for you and your baby right now. That's the biggest priority. Because if we take care of that, everything else seems to solve itself after that.
Seems like the sleep part is almost unrealistic. It seems so crazy. I mean, I never had a kid. Just from the stories, it just seems so wild and so difficult to constantly get naps and what that does to your circadian rhythm and then what that does to all the hormones in your body.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. I wouldn't sign up for it.
Well, and I think it's just being prepared for that too. And also one thing I've realized, I am not a parent. Let me caveat with that. I'm not a parent, but I am an auntie and I go in and I help because they need extra hands. One thing I have learned is whatever routine you set up, they will follow. So if you're in a system of dysfunction, they will follow a system of dysfunction. But also that can change. If this is not working for anybody, well, then change it. And there's so many resources now to help you create something that works for you and the child, as well as be mindful of what's available at that age and what's what can you truly expect to be possible to. And you might be surprised. They may be faster or they may be a little slower, but that doesn't mean it can't happen. And then as you're able to sleep, then it also helps everybody at that point. So
I would imagine.
Yes.
I do want to get more into what's going on with the gut. And so
Sure.
you termed it something, and if you could remind me what that term is, that'd be great.
It's called leaky gut syndrome.
Okay.
And the protocol I'm on is called CBO, which is Candida and bacterial overgrowth.
And we can test with, I assume, with fecal testing.
You can do that. You can also do blood work will show some of it. There's also a stress test that you can do that will it's a spit test. And I'm probably butchering this. Casey's going to come and haunt me, and that's okay. If you have questions, just DM me. I will direct you to the person that has way better answers on this than I am. But it will test your stress over the day. So one of the things that we'll see with somebody that's in this situation is they'll have a micro deficiencies of their micronutrients. And so we see this in women common that are burnout, but also that are on birth control, because birth control will naturally draw some of those nutrients out so that your body can manage that as well. It's not a bad thing. It's your personal choice, but you also have to be aware of the ramifications. And so that's one thing. But also you could eat those things, but if you're not absorbing anything, then it doesn't matter at that point. And so we went and did all the testing, and this is one of the first steps we did, because she's like, I'm pretty sure that if we can get we'll get your hormones better if your body would just be able to absorb what you're eating. And so this is one of the tools to do that. You can do it with antibiotics, but all my experiences with antibiotics had been horrible. I felt sick for a very long time. I just never felt like I could bounce back, as well as I felt like they took too much away, Whereas this is a little bit slower paced, a little more intensive, but I felt like it was a better use of my time. And also I was able to test for things that don't work for my body in the process. So it was a multitude of things. And right before this, I did a functional medicine detox. Now, detoxes are big. We hear about this all the time online. And as being in the fitness industry, we both have to like probably stop ourselves from rolling our eyes for some of the things that we see. But I think there's truly a way to support your liver to do its job. Not just drink this juice and poop your brains out. Like, no, there's actually a way to allow your liver to do its job so that way you can actually detox. So I did a functional medicine version of that. And
what did that involve before we move forward?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things you do is it is a pretty strict like food regimen because it takes a lot of foods off the list that would require more work from your liver and your digestive system. So if you can get your digestive system kind of calm down, it allows your liver to do its job and focus on detoxing, as well as supporting yourself with a multivitamin based shake. So that way since you have less choices, you can do that. So it allows the digestive system to kind of calm down and focus on getting the nutrition you need so your liver can do its job. And some Ayurvedic herbs. There's way more info. If you want that, I can send it to you guys. So I did that. First 2 days is a liquid fast because the digestive system has to go through, but it's not just straight liquids. Has shakes and stuff. Like, I am not a fast, no food kind of girl. I never have been. So to ask me not to eat for 2 days, I will eat you is how I am.
I did a 7-day fast, like, I don't know, like 5-6 months ago-ish or so.
Yeah.
And I have consumed a lot of alcohol in my life, and I think my liver was not having that amount of fat just go through my system, and I was getting in ketosis the entire time. I measured my ketones and I do all that stuff, and I think it was just an overflow for my liver, and I ended up having yellow eyes, and so I ended up developing jaundice. And so at that point, I was like, okay, well, now we have to start a refeeding process. It needs to be very slow. 2-3 days, I'm cool with. I've seen, like, it's, I don't know, like, for me, it was a mental challenge. It wasn't for anything outside of, like, a health or to lose weight. I'm not a super big proponent. Yeah, but at the same time, research does show there's quite a bit of autophagy, especially with cancer cells when we have these long set fasts. So I think that there's definitely some benefits to it. But also, like, doing it with some guidance is probably helpful.
Big time. Like, let me finish this and I'm going to circle back. Yep. So the first 2 days are liquid. Then the next 5 days, it's 2 plant-based meals. Last one's pescatarian if you want. And then the other 2 meals are shakes at that point. And you can do a 7-day, 14 or 21. I made it 14 days and my mental health was like, we're toasted. We're done with this. But I was under the supervision of an integrative health practitioner. The other thing I would add is I had been working on my nutrition and my eating habits for probably close to 1.5 years before this. If I went in and tried to do this without that practice in place and like making better choices for me, I would not have made it through day 1, much less the full week or the 2 weeks that I made it. So like taking time to actually learn that and give myself time to implement those habits so that way I would actually be successful on that was an absolute game changer. Some things I noticed immediately after the detox was my skin almost cleared up immediately. I had the energy to function. I had no brain fog for the first time in probably 2.5 years. I felt like my joints worked better. I didn't have a bunch of inflammation in my body. I have the traditional before and after photos just because I think it's just important and for me not to be biased. And it's like, it's astounding. And then I started the CBO protocol and I'm on the last month of that. And like just looking at myself now and before and after, like I'm creative again. I'm able to function again. I can eat food and it not be like a big deal, but like it's processing and like the whole bowel movement thing is a much better experience. Like it's something that's so underrated that's not talked enough. Like your ability to digest and function as a human. And like just my overall being as a human has changed and I'm not even done. And so I can't imagine what my life is going to be like once I've finished all this. Like, dude, my husband just better hang on to me and let me just run. And like, he's going to be a cape at the speed I'm going at this point.
I like this a lot. I stopped drinking alcohol recently, and I guess like a little bit more than a month ago now. And I go through these periods of like, okay, I really gotta stop drinking, and so then I stop, and then I'll reintroduce. And something I've noticed the last several days was like, oh, like my mental chatter is kind of back. Like I'm thinking constantly versus when I'm not, or when I am drinking, like all of those internal thoughts are suppressed. And I think that that's ultimately why I'm trying to get away from, because it can be exhausting at times, but there's such a superpower to, I'm alive. I'm constantly working. I'm constantly alive, and analyzing all the things that are going around with me. There's more unique ideas rather than the same repetitive ideas. Adding little things like I started doing just a multivitamin. Just a multivitamin. And I used to be so big of following, okay, I need to have my krill oil, I need to have, just like the basics.
Yes, exactly.
And I got away from that, and now doing it again, I feel excited, invigorated. I feel motivated. I feel like I still get brain fog after I sit here and edit for like 4 or 5 hours.
Well, I
and
think that's a natural thing when you're that focused and you're just like, it's like, I'm cross-eyed at this point. Yes,
it's
absolutely.
The worst.
Yeah. And I've been alcohol-free for probably, I went alcohol-free about 6 months after we moved here.
Nice.
Now I will caveat that I will do it in like very special occasions, and that's the rule that I follow. Like I went to my cousin's wedding last year, and I saw what bottle they opened, and I'm like, I will have 1 glass of that, please, and thank you. Yeah. We went to a really great place here in town in Vegas, and like they had something on the menu. I'm like, I would like 1 of that, but for me it's the reverse. So you say your chatter increases, my chatter stops. I have more regulation of my thoughts. I have better regulation of my anxiety and my depression.
When you drink.
When I don't drink.
When you don't drink.
Yeah. So mine's the reverse. I become quiet and I'm able to like focus. And I realize I have a pretty decent control of my body from being an athlete my entire life, but like I feel just more aware of what's going on. I also just feel like it, like not just like physically, but mentally of where it's at. And also I feel like I face what I'm trying to run away from. I think for a long time, I used alcohol as like a means of entertainment, but as well as like a coping mechanism, which I think a lot of people do. But it was like, what am I trying to drink away, or what am I trying to avoid? And like allowing myself to do that type of work and being in a space to be able to do that type of work, because that's tough. I think you should go through seasons of personal development and like that type of deep work, and then you have to like take like a season off. Like I think the season theory is true for so many things in life, not just personal development, like how you train and things like that, being okay for the season to change and allowing the season to change too.
There's an off season for a reason.
Amen. Like, amen, man.
There's constantly people out there just like, you got to work every day, you got to grind, you got to get up at 4:30, and they're like, I did that. I need a break, man. Like you can't run at 100 every single day for years and years and years. Yeah. Like there's got to be weeks, there's got to be sometimes months for some people, sometimes years for other people, where you just take a fucking break. Agreed. And then you can appreciate a little bit more about the people that are around you. Like you can stop, slow down. I'm not working till 9-10 o'clock at night, but I can look and spend dinner at home, or I can go out with friends and do something that's productive but good for the community, like good to build my own personal community. Like it's not all just fucking about the work.
I agree. And I think if you spend more time outside of this country, it's such a eye-opener. That is one thing, like outside of everybody should do carries for their workout, I think everybody should spend time outside of where they grew up. They should live somewhere else for a while. And if I can add a number 3, leave this country and just go see how other people live. And you'll be absolutely shocked. And I think in a lot of positive ways and good ways, like my time in Latin America, we think we have our work ethic. Oh my God, no. Those people will work us into the ground and then some. And be grateful about it. The other thing is like when I spent time overseas, I spent some time in England growing up, and they truly work to live, not live to work. And like just seeing that prioritization and realizing how that is, it's like, those are things I've implemented in my life because I had that gracious opportunity to do that. But if you can, just go and be open to things being different and just opening your eyes and just seeing how other people live, because it's such a game changer. And we have such empathy in the positive way because of those experiences, because we can see how other people live.
I like to say that I am like the laziest person ever, and so therefore I have to work hard now so that I can just like not work hard later. But then there's moments for that. Like I created a supplement, and the goal is to sell a couple of these guys, and then just kind of like, okay, I can sit and I can have the house, have the life, have the things that I want, but yes, it takes a season of work, but then after that, it's like, all right, like I am no longer just working I'm no longer living to work, but I can work to live, and I can decide, I kind of want to do this project. I'm sure, why not? I really just want to podcast for a living. Great, like I can do that. But ultimately, I like waking up at 8 o'clock in the morning. I like waking up at 9 o'clock in the morning. I like playing video games every so often. I like having a community of friends that we can go play top golf together. And not have to worry, have nobody worry about us going out and do that thing. It's such a refreshing feeling to be able to take care of those in your community. It feels good.
Absolutely. And I think there's something to be said for finding fulfillment. I think so much we focus on happiness, but truly fulfillment can be separate from that.
Elaborate.
And so I think everybody's focus is just happy, but I can be done at the end of the day and feel fulfilled that I spent time with my family, or the work that I did, or the impact, or the thing I went and did in the community. And I may not be happy in that moment, but fulfillment I have found in my journey has been such a joy. And I wish I had another word, but it's literally filling and expansive all in the same moment. Because when I focused on fulfillment, even if it was something I didn't enjoy, all of a sudden the happiness started to come too. Because I focused on that. And because I also tried to find it today. So many people say, I will be happy when. I'll be happy when. I'll be happy when. I'll be happy when. And I finally got fed up with, don't get me wrong, I want to be happy today, but I want to feel fulfilled, and I want to be intentional how I show up in my life every day. I don't always get it right, but I want to go to bed and think, I lived how I wanted to live today in the situation I'm currently in, even if it's not the one I want to be in.
I think it highlights this idea of just being conscious, being aware and awake. And I think that one of my biggest frustrations is going to the gym and somebody just pulling a 25-pound plate off of somebody else's rack and not even asking. I think somebody who's alive, who's awake, who's aware, who's conscious is somebody who's gonna hey, do you mind? Or turn your blinker on, or these little things, because you're trying to show up for you in your life, and it impacts all of the people around you because of that. That's probably one of my biggest frustrations, is that people and I think the gym does that. I think the gym forces that mentality. You show up every single day and you can look in the mirror and say, I'm making progress in these things, I'm not making progress in these things, why or why not? It's a good highlighter, I think.
I agree. I also think it'll show you as a person. It's one of those environments that'll always show your character. I think the other one is the grocery store. Every time. The grocery store, anything with a Q, that will show your character as a person. Sorry, Q is line for those that I spent enough time in England. I'm sorry. So you'll hear bloody out of me, and ogre, which is country cuss words. But Q is another word to say in line. And so when you're waiting in the TSA line or you're waiting for a venue, I think that truly will show your character as well as your own emotional regulation. And
that's a good one.
And being open to that, but also learning that is something you can improve upon. I think everybody just assumes I'll give myself an example. I have no problem highlighting me. For a long time, I did not understand why, when I worked in higher ed, why people would not go and accomplish and get their degree. That just flabbergasted me for the first couple of years. I'm why does it exist? But then I realized it was not that it was a character flaw. They didn't understand the why. But the character flaws came in when they realized when they didn't think it was something they could change. So the belief system started to come up at that point. So when you realize your character is something you can evolve and make it better, it's possible. We see that in the gym too, like somebody that comes in and just leaves weights on the floor. Nothing makes me more irritated than that, because that feels very lazy. But also it's like, I always try to think about it in the, how did they grow up? How were they treated? What were they taken care of? And there's not negative things, just something to think about. Like if they were at home and somebody always picked up after them, why wouldn't they think anywhere else that was the case? But it was also setting that expectation. So like when I was in strength conditioning, we set the expectation of how that room had to be kept, but we had to teach that. It was not something that was innately known, which then evolved in their character, because I always remember hearing back from the coaches after we set that precedent, that locker room all of a sudden started to be cleaner. Their grades always started to improve after that type of thing. Their relationships always got better. And so I always realized that this domino effect is so true, but that character piece can shift. And you can be something else. Like I had a client one time, she always said like, God, I just wake up and I'm just unhappy. And I said, okay, what do you do after that? Well, I go drink my coffee and I watch the news and do this. I said, what do you feel like you could change to do differently that might help? I hate saying this, but like it's the world I live in, raise your vibration or put you in a better state. Well, she said, well, I've been wanting to eat breakfast. I said, okay, let's start there. So we start with eating breakfast. And then a couple weeks later, oh, that's working. What do you feel like you can do differently? Well, I feel like I should stop watching the news. I said, why do you watch the news anyway? To know what's going on in the weather. I said, okay, how about you check the weather on your phone? There's this really great option off Google that they'll send you the headlines of what's going on in the world. It takes less than 2 minutes. Okay, I'll do that. Night and day difference for her, just with those shifts, because she thought she just woke up unhappy. It was just how she was priming herself for the day. So like these things that we think are innately our being can shift, and we can shift ourselves in the direction we want to go.
If I wake up and I have my phone right next to my bed and I turn around and I grab it immediately,
yes,
I just feel like I have this like almost this agitation that I'll carry with me at the beginning of my morning.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I put it down here and I just wake up when I wake up, and then I kind of do my thing in the morning, finally come downstairs. Maybe I don't even come to this room first to grab my phone. I'll go out, hang out with the dogs, kind of just go for a walk, do anything else. Then I've come and look at that phone and I feel so much more relaxed and prepared for and motivated to find more things in my life. Like changing those small details makes such a significant difference.
It's true. And I would also say when I was in corporate America, because like I work for myself now, so like my mornings are slow in that sense. But when I worked for corporate America, I made a point of having some form of morning routine. And I had to be at the gym at 6 a.m. or 5 a.m. So that means my butt had to be up at 4, sometimes 3:30, it just depended on the morning. But I would still get up and take that moment for me, made sure I ate my breakfast. And like, even if it was just 5 minutes, to take a moment for me to kind of set the precedent of how I wanted a day. I know some of my clients do read their Bible. Some like to read a personal development book, listen to a podcast, music, journal. Sometimes they like to meditate, like just finding what works for you to how you want to start your day, no matter what your life looks like. And then the other thing that can be really humbling that can help with that is looking at your screen time, but also looking at when your screen time is. That can be really insightful, because if you realize you have pockets of time, sometimes you can change some things. One of my friends right now, she has her screen time set and she doesn't know the password to turn it off. Her significant other knows. And I just think that's so brilliant. She's like, good. I can't extend it, but it also made her so much aware of when she would reach for it. For me, for the phone, I've had one of those like regular alarm clocks and it would not go off on time. So like I'm back to the phone thing, but I have the app limits in the morning and that's helped. Another thing that's been really helpful is there's this little app, and I'll find it and I'll tell you the name, but you put it on there and it focuses and you can grow a tree while you work. And so that's been really helpful for me while, because a lot of my stuff is social media and content. So I have to really separate that. So anything I can do on my computer, I do now at this point to help separate the phone. I also try to make a point of not having any phone games on there. I currently have one that I've been playing, but one of my mentors showed me a game she's playing on her Switch. And so I'm going to actually get the game so I can take the games off my phone too. And so things like that can be ways you can kind of work around that, but also knowing your own tendencies and being okay with like, okay, that does not work. That's currently not working because I keep lapsing into this habit. How can I shift it? And also, do I want to shift it? Because it's okay. If you're okay with it, that's fine. But I find for me, I will get into a scroll hole versus create, which is where I need to be, at least in this point in my career, is I need to be creating and networking and trying to provide information at that point.
Provide value as much as you can, anywhere you can, and consuming content. I think I think maybe sure there's a it can spark some creative juices at times. Like, oh man, this person did this. Like, I'm gonna do that too, or do a version of that. But I also think that if you just like sit there to create, your own creative juices will come out, and then now you're creating something that's a little more unique and more true to who you are, not just a replicate, like not just following a trend, but maybe making your own trend, which I think captures your specific audience, which I find very valuable.
Yeah, and I also think for me, I have found most of my ideas come from living my life. Like, I can't just sit down and be creative. I unless you want me to, like, you tell me, Kelsey, I have this problem. Help me go from point A to point B. Absolutely. Let's do this. I can do it. But if you're like, please create content and this and that. No, my brain does not work that way. I literally sat in my car before I text you for like 3 minutes because I had 4 ideas on the way here that I had to write down. And so like driving for me and training and living my life, I get the best ideas, not just scrolling. Sometimes I do, but like most of my stuff comes from, oops, I think that's my alarm.
Are we at time? I can edit it out. You're good.
1 second.
Cool. Hold on real quick. Might as well. All right, we're back after some technical difficulties.
Well, okay, so that actually spurs something.
Talk to
me. That alarm, so if you heard the alarm in the recording, is an affirmation I have going on. So I have 3 or 4 that go on throughout the day to remind myself of where I want to go or the state I want to be. And so that's something I've started doing that's actually been really helpful. And also like to eat lunch and drink water and things of that sort. So like, there's nothing wrong with setting alarms to remind yourself of the things you need to be doing or the state you need to be in. Yeah. That's for darn sure.
What is your current state that you should be in?
So for me, that I'm currently working on is being in a more receptive state. I have this capacity to work, and give, and I have a hard time receiving, which is a whole part of the relationship too. Like, you have to be able to give as much as you need to be able to receive, because the giver, that's their gift to you. So you need to be able to receive that. And so that's something I've been really focusing on, is being open to that and not blocking it and allowing people to give. But I'm also allowed to give as well.
I had a client that owned a dealership, and I needed a new car. And she was like, come out to the place. I'll set you up with this guy, the sales guy. I'll let him know you're coming in. Like, please let us help you. Mm-hmm. And I was like, no, it's okay. Like, don't worry about it. Like, I think I can figure it out for a little bit longer. And one of the other gentlemen that was around for that conversation, he was like, you're being mean. She is offering you help and you are denying her the opportunity to help you.
Yep.
Why are you being mean? Mm-hmm. And I was like, damn. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Cool. Yeah. I'll be there today if you guys have time today.
Exactly.
It was a really interesting, like, I am worthy of help.
Correct.
Yeah. It's weird.
And we're allowed to ask for it. Like, I think there's this expectation that you have to do it all, but you're allowed to ask for help. You're allowed to pay for help. You're allowed to barter for help. Like, you don't have to carry all the burden, you know? And sometimes it's a matter of a conversation to, like, I'll give 2 examples here. My husband and I talk about this all the time. So my husband cooks. I don't cook. You never want to eat my cooking. We're just going to make that very clear. But I do the dishes because that's what we agreed upon. So that allows, he helps the house because he's a member of the household by cooking. And I do my part by doing the dishes. There's not an expectation, and there never was an expectation in our house that I cook and clean. Same thing with my clients. My clients understand that there is an expectation for them to do the work and to communicate. But also, like, I am a human. I have a life. We have office hours. So, like, those type of boundaries and that communication is key. So, like, if there's something that's not working, communicate it. But also figure out what a compromise is, too, at the same time.
Such fun. Have you ever been to therapy?
I've done a little bit because it was one of the ways I had to manage my anxiety and depression growing up. I'm very open in the sense of I've had a couple of suicidal attempts growing up through a multitude of situations, and that was one of the ways that I worked to recover, but as well as becoming more self-aware. I think that and life coaching are some of the things that can really serve people in putting themselves in a better state. Like, I am generally a very positive, outgoing person. And a lot of people are like, God, that just must be your natural state. No, I am like doom and gloom and everything. This is that character conversation we had earlier of the things you do to put yourself. I am this way because of the years of effort I have put in to be like this. That's the only way. And therapy was one of the ways to work through it. I still need some more. I think we all have a need for it, but it's learning the skills of how to operate and be a healthy, functioning human is something you will reap benefits for the rest of your life.
I absolutely love if anybody is, all the listeners know at this point, I've talked about it multiple times. I've been in therapy for a long time, and I've really enjoyed my experience. It's taught me a lot. And I'm not perfect by any means, but it allows me the opportunity to communicate with somebody as a third party and like really recognize, even if it's just like a soundboard, like I'm saying this out loud and this sounds insane. Okay, cool.
Exactly.
Nope, that's not a good thing, Ben. Don't do that. Or you know what? No, I'm hearing myself not learn how to sit in my emotions. Hey,
yes.
Sit in it. It's okay. Like you are worthy of love. You are worthy of help. You are, you don't need to earn it by doing anything extra. Correct. You currently right now in this moment are deserving of it.
Absolutely.
So like that, I think there's no need to place blame on an upbringing. I think that you definitely can, but it was like, it takes a village, and you need to have multiple people involved in your own personal journey. Having mentors is a good one. I want to find more mentors. So I want to find coaches, finding the right coach. I would try to get into CrossFit. And so I went to this place right down the street, Camp Rhino, and I asked the first day, I was like, I'd love to get involved in CrossFit. Like, I want to coach. I have experience in the gym. I don't want to necessarily follow a class. I do better with one-on-one. I want to learn from somebody. And they are like, yeah, just go in and do classes for 2 months and then we'll get you started. I was like, okay, well, that's fine. Okay, this is your prerequisite. That's fine. And so I did that. After 2 months, I went and asked again. So I've done classes for 2 months. Like, I would love training again. And they're like, yeah, we'll set you up tomorrow. Just meet us back here at the gym tomorrow. I was like, sounds good. Went to the gym the next day. The guy wasn't there. The guy he said he was going to set me up with was just like, he never told me anything. And I was like, okay, so I guess not. And then another time, I was like, I really want coaching. Like, I'm trying to give somebody money here.
Exactly. Take my money, please.
Like, Lord. And they, again, just never came through. And it was at that point like frustrating because I wanted help.
Yes.
And I was asking for it, but also remembering that not everyone is going to be open to that help. Not everyone's going to be the right person. So continuously looking, and so if that's what I want, then I got to go find somebody else. I think that's unfortunate. Like, while growing up, I had people that were in my corner, like as coaches, that gave me a lot of help and assistance, and that probably massaged the idea of wanting to go to compete for Team USA. It was like I had enough support or enough interest from other people that wanted to help me, that kind of pushed me towards that direction. I think, which is why as coaches, especially around kiddos and around adults as well, we have such a beautiful power to impact somebody's like trajectory, or Yeah, trajection, right? Is that the word?
Yeah, trajection or trajectory.
Trajectory.
Yeah, they're close enough. So.
I was like, there's something around that. That doesn't sound exactly right.
I think one is straight, one is curved, to be perfectly honest. But I don't remember. If my husband was here, he'd be like, it was this. But I don't know. That's what Google's for, is the way I work at it.
There you go. So you can guide somebody's trajectory towards the things that would matter most to them by just offering a little bit of support. And that's all somebody really needs at times to really get moving somewhere. Like a kid that's just like, I really want to try golf. Great, let's go try golf. Exactly. And then they're like, wait, I can go do that? It's like, yeah, you can go do that.
Absolutely.
God, it's amazing.
It is. And it also comes to like, so something that's funny to me, but also like I get it, is like when I refer somebody else out to somebody else and they just kind of look at me. And it's like, but why aren't you doing this? Because I know that they can help you with the problem that you have. And this is me sharing my village with you and getting you the help that you actually want and desire, so you can get the result that you actually want. And so that's interesting, because I see that belief come up when they're like, but it's you. And it's like, but it's not me, at least in this situation. Come back to me after you've done the work. But sometimes you have to refer out to others, which is therapy. I refer out to therapists, life coaches. I have 5 or 6 different nutritionists I interact with depending on the person's personality or what they need, because I know that I can't serve them all, and nor should I. It truly takes a village at that point. And I always try to tell them, like, this is me serving you by you not just working with me, or that we're not a good fit because I won't give you what you want.
Yeah. Remember, like, there are other people with other skills, and that is valuable. You don't need to know everything.
God, thank God. Thank God. Right? I'm a jack of enough trades. If I know anything else, my brain's going to like explode at this point.
There's too much to know.
It's true. It's true.
Like, even in the space of strength conditioning, like there are specific track coaches. There are specific weight training coaches. Like it is not easy. And then you gotta like add nutrition, and then there's an understanding of physiology, but even then, inside of physiology, there's this whole plethora of understanding. You need help. Like, you need help. There's no way you can do it alone. Absolutely.
And somebody else's perspective can be insightful, and what they could offer too that you're missing. So like I know enough about nutrition to be dangerous. I will be the first to tell you that. But when you start to need like in-depth blood work, and like you're starting to show some eating disorders, then you do have to be referred out, because that's scope of practice, but also like ethical. Like, I want to make sure your problem is solved. I want to make sure that you are taken care of.
I worked in a nutrition lab.
Oh man.
And I would still say I would refer out. Like I did a lot of research on specific things, but I would still I need help for other people. How do you grow your community of those people? Like, how do you find the right? I've dabbled with trying to refer out to several people, now working as an independent, like trying to build that community of like in network, if you will. And I've been able to connect people through the podcast. It's like, oh, like you're a life coach or a strength coach or whatever, a business coach, and you're looking for someone, then like we can just like make that connection. But in the like the nutrition space, I've struggled quite a bit. Just people just don't reply. I just don't understand.
So one thing I have learned is I've worked my own network, but I've also done it for probably 10 years. So I've had the opportunity to meet a lot of people in the room. I've put myself in a lot of rooms and was able to talk to people, as well as I have learned that follow-up is the key to everything in life that you want, desire. People you want to talk to, like, no now does not mean no forever, or you're just not a good vibe. So that was the one thing I have found. And also like finding other people that I trust in the industry that have good connections and asking for help and being like, hey, I'm looking for this, this, and this. And then I've had some stuff that like they just literally have showed up in my world, and I'm like, universe, God, did you? Thanks. A little unnerved, but thank you. You know. And so like, but it's also that intention. Like, so if that's something you want, it's one of those things that like every person, you know, hey, I'm looking for this. Hey, I'm looking for this. Hey, I'm looking for this. So like right now my asks are, hey, I'm looking for clients who are actually ready to work on their athletic performance over the summer and quit saying summer's the time I blow off. I am looking for people who want to be on my podcast right now because I want to continue people to be unapologetically themselves. But to do that, they have to learn things about themselves and be exposed to things they would never consider. I'm looking to connect here in Vegas because I want to continue to grow my community and have a well-rounded circle. Like, you have to be able to communicate, and you know this, but like for the listener to like realize that you have to be able to communicate what you want and be clear. And it's okay if that desire shifts, because if you say it out loud and you're like, "Ew, that may not be quite it," shift it, because eventually you're going to get to the part that's like, oh, that's actually what I, and then the other thing is you hit the thing, you're like, oh, I actually want that. And that's a lot bigger than I thought it was. And that's humbling. That's real humbling when you reach that point. It's like, oh God, that means I actually have to own that I want this. And I've said so long I didn't want this, but I actually do. And then you have to be okay with that.
And not get worried about what the potential outcome of
Correct.
accomplishing that thing will be.
Yes.
That is, I think, what gets me a lot of times. Like, okay, I sell this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now what does my life look like?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Figure it out. When you get there,
yep,
worry about it then.
Yep.
Like, well, I'm going to need a tire. Like, I always worry about the team that I need behind me.
Yes.
Okay, well, I need to hire financial advisors. I need to hire an attorney. I need to create a trust. I need to, and it becomes so overwhelming that I'm just like, okay, hold on. Just one thing at a time, dude.
Yeah. What's
one
the
thing
next
at a time.
step?
Yeah, what's the next step? Yeah.
And then the other thing is to think about and this is weird to think about, it's more like methodological, but like own what you want and don't worry about the how, which is interesting. But it's based on the theory that if you try to imagine this perfect trajectory and then it doesn't go that way, like you will self-sabotage. But if you don't worry about the how and you just let yourself be guided to whatever the next step is, like not step 10, just the next one, it eventually get there. Like I said more than 10 years ago, I wanted to be close to the West Coast, and Vegas counts for me. Freaking here. Like, I couldn't have told you how it was going to happen. I could have said, well, we're both going to have a corporate job, and it got out here, and probably going to work in the office, and I'm going to probably still be in corporate wellness. And dude, no, like we got a job offer out of left field that got us out here. That paid for everything to get out here. We found the best neighborhood for us to live in. Like, I started telling my network I was moving out here, and people connected me with people here in Vegas. Like how, like, I don't know what you guys believe in, but I am a higher power kind of girl, universe. Like, how much more divine can you get? I just had to let go of the timeline and the how, and all of a sudden it took care of itself. I couldn't have imagined that.
Yeah.
Never.
When I first started moving out here, everyone that was around was like, it's a terrible place. Terrible. You're not going to have a good time.
I know.
There's no community. Everyone's just drinking all the time. It's so expensive. It's hard to meet anybody. And I was like, fuck, like, what do I do? Like, are you sure this is the right decision?
Yes.
And finally I was like, you know what? I got to just make it. So I started the drive. Just one day I was just like, you know what? We got to go. I had just bought a house in Texas, and I was like, but we just got to move.
Yes.
So got in the car, started driving over here, and then on like I think my first or second gas stop, the guy was like, so where are you going? I was like, going to Vegas. He's like, oh, I don't know, that's gonna be a good idea, man. I was like, God damn, like this is rough, dude. Like, are you sure this is a good idea? And then within a couple months of getting out here, one of my clients helped me get sponsored through Manscaped, and I was like, oh,
that's so awesome.
Holy shit, like, this is so validating. And then we found, like, I don't know if you've watched fighting at all, but Francis Ngannou is a pretty popular name in the UFC. Sean Strickland is another one in the UFC. I got to meet the coach for these athletes, and the head strength and conditioning guy for Extreme Couture, which is here in town, which like a lot of the fighters go to. His wife sold us this house. And so I got to meet him.
That's amazing.
And then like got to go just hang around the venue and intern-ish with over there and like be around these like world renowned athletes. Like it was just validation over validation. It was like I think at the end of the day, I will attract what I am.
Absolutely.
So if I'm a good person, there's going to be other good people that are going to gravitate towards me. And the people that were telling me these things maybe that says something a little bit more about their character. Maybe they weren't the best people in the world. Maybe they just in that time of their life, they just were in a place that was negative. So then they have a negative experience of that location. Remembering to look at the source, and remember the source isn't always right.
Well, and also like each place is different for each person. Like I love California. My husband hates it. But like, I don't demonize him for that and what he likes, and vice versa. And we both love Vegas, and half our friends and family think we're nuts. But again, it's owning what you like and being okay with it. And being okay with it no longer works. You can change it. Like, we literally told ourselves when we moved out here, if we decide we actually don't like it, we can just always move back. Like, nothing's truly permanent. We're always in this ebb and flow kind of thing.
Yeah. If I really wanted to go back to College Station, I have a house.
Exactly. You always got somewhere to go.
Yeah. I'm sure my parents would take me in. Maybe. I don't know if I want to stay there very long. But, they're there.
Absolutely. That's fair. I know our family would love for us to be back in the central United States, but like, this is where my career has taken me, and this is where like I'm at home, and like I love the desert, but also like I am 45 minutes to a mountain. I'm 3 hours to a big mountain. Like, I'm a snowboarder. This is the closest I've lived to a mountain since I lived on one 7 years ago. And now I have the money to snowboard. So like, it's a win-win. I just don't just get to stare at it and dream it. Like, I have the money to snowboard now. Like, I'm 4 hours on a good day to LA if I need to go work, 5.5 to San Diego. It's beautiful. If I need to go to Phoenix to work, it's great. If I need to go to Salt Lake, it's there. Like, we're in the hub of where we want to be, but not everybody sees it that way because they don't enjoy the same things. But like, find what serves you, and don't demonize yourself for that liking it. Like, if you like where you're at, like it, but also be okay. If you want to go try something, go try something. Like, I never thought I would love Houston. I lived in Houston for 7 years, and I adored that place. And people think I'm nuts. Like, everybody's like, there's traffic. Rah, 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 rah. Again, it's what you look for, but I loved Houston. But Vegas is where our home was meant to be.
I love that. Plug, promote, all you got.
Absolutely. Well, I'm a fitness coach and strength conditioning coach, which is a fancy way to say I'm just very well educated. So if you ever need anything, you're done trying to figure this out on your own, and figure out why you're not doing what you say you want to do, come get me. I also created a build your own workout workbook. So if you want to kind of learn the foundations, I have that as well. And you can also check out the podcasts. I've got free resources. I have season 1, season 2 starting right now. You can check out my website. Follow me on Instagram at kelseylanefitness and all the platforms, and hit me up. Come say hi. I'd love to visit with you if you have any questions or just want to shoot.
Cool.
Do that.
We'll link it all in the description as well below. So if you guys want to go ahead and go visit all the stuff, go find a strength coach. Make sure you guys go like, share, and subscribe to all of the stuff. Thank you guys very much. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. It was my honor.
It was a pleasure. Love y'all. Cheers.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Ben Nevares podcast. Check us out on iTunes, Spotify, and all other major podcast hosting platforms. Be sure to leave us a 5-star review on iTunes.